Hello friends and family, welcome to another Patreon mixing tutorial, and let's take a look at the tones on my cover of Lucid. You just can't pause this riff in the middle. It's disrespectful. What a fucking riff. Okay. Had a lot of fun doing this song. Let's keep this mix tutorial brief because it's pretty late here. And I actually need to eat. I shouldn't launch the covers before I do the mixing tutorial because I want to be answering comments and actually eating. My life has been a mess, but I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I gotta work. So let's go. Let's start on the mix bus. So everything on the mix is going through these 4 plugins I'm showing here. Firstly, we have Gullfoss. Gullfoss is this magical EQ that has this auditory perception curve based on science, Fletcher-Munson curves. It basically, you feed stuff into it and it makes it sound better to the human ear. Recover is the parameter that brings out the good frequencies, and tame is the parameter that tames the annoying frequencies. Let's watch it react to my mix. The most evident thing is that it makes everything a lot shinier in this 15K region. A very, very pleasant boost that makes it sound super modern. And then it just does magic in the mids. It just ducks everything at the right spot at the right time. And it fixes the bass in that when the kick hits, it ducks it a little bit so that it's not too boomy. And when the kick is not hitting, it lets the bass go into that sub region. So this guy is just making everything sound a little bit better, which is what you want on your mix bus. This guy also makes everything sound a little bit better. It's the mix bus compressor, and we're gonna be hitting it with the kick and snare mostly. You can see we're aiming at about -2 decibels on a kick or snare hit, and this helps the whole mix feel a little bit more tied together. Everything reacts to the drums in a different way. And these little magic buttons, no small time, adds a little bit of stereo widening magic, which is just a sound better button like you want. And these transformer options give you some master bus saturation. The iron one is focused on the low mid-range, so the 100 to 200 area, I feel like, and it helps the notes of the guitar cut through. This linear multiband compressor. So the multiband compressor is doing basically the same thing as Gullfoss, but it's only taming whatever goes into it too hard, which in my mix always is the mid-range band, which corresponds to the guitar frequencies. So this helps me balance the whole mix a little bit. Watch it. Very, very subtle. This just makes the mix sound a little bit more controlled. I actually like it turned off because it lets the guitars really roar and just the mid-range takes over. But with it on, it honestly might be a better final product because I am a guitarist and I want stuff to be guitar heavy, but this might be the thing that's keeping my guitars in check. And our limiter, my philosophy on limiting is you just cut down the kick and snare till they're the same size as your sustained instruments. And if it's not loud enough, you can then try to go crazier. But this is just chopping the kick and snare in order to let everything become louder. You can see this one has the kick and snare going, and then just the tiniest bit of the guitars and cymbals are getting crushed too. So this is going to be a very, very loud mix. I'm looking for a fast character on a master limiter. For heavy music, you want the release and attack to be pretty fast so that it kind of distorts instead of pumps, which doesn't sound too good on fast metal music. Drums, this is the P4 kit and it's the mix on my tutorial. So if you go to the P4 demo and review video I did, this is the same mix. So I won't bother with describing it again. I just will explain to you how I change that mix to fit different styles better. So the Satellites mix I do in that video is a very roomy one because the song is very epic, a final moment in a progressive album. But this is a metalcore bop. This doesn't need a lot of room. So the main difference, actually maybe the only difference, is that I went to the snare and turned it way down in the room. Not way down, but a little bit down. And the toms too, so that it sounds a little bit drier. If this were a periphery song, I would maybe want it to sound like this. With a very epic snare decay. Oh god, now I can't go exactly where it was. Maybe this. And then also roomy toms. The way you're gonna change the character of a drum mix really fast is by going to your room channel and either changing its volume or changing the balance of the instruments. So this is that mix, but the shells are way lower in the room so that it just sounds a little bit drier. There's still a very healthy amount of snare in the room left though. So go check out the P4 demo video I did for the details on every single little plugin in this. Let's go to this bass tone. I need to change strings, and that is as soon as I can. Let's listen to the DI in Shame. Oh, and what I just did here, I just turned off Gullfoss, because Gullfoss would start reacting to the bass sound alone. And I want you to hear it before Gullfoss. Gullfoss only makes sense when the whole mix is going through it. This sounds like dead bass strings. Little trick on dead bass strings, just EQ them. Make them sound a little bit brighter or correct the mid-range you don't want to hear. Let's see what I did. So that's cool. You can see I am getting rid of mid-range at 800 and also getting rid of mid-range at 500. So I am scooping the DI and then I am boosting it with the input on the SSL. So I'm distorting the DI a little bit too. Very, very cool. Into Joel Wanasek Bus Glue Bass. This is our bass compression, and this is our high-end compression. This plugin is very nice because it splits the bass into those two frequency ranges, and you can add distortion to just the high one. I chose distortion A at about 70% mix. C is sounding great too. They're similar, I like it. And then there's a bunch of EQ after it too. So I'm just cutting down on the regions I don't like. I did this to control the bass because the guitars were very noisy. So by scooping the bass on the correct regions, you get a wider guitar image too. So this is a low-end filter, beneath 45 Hz, it's all sub, it's the kicks business. Getting rid of boominess at 200. This 400 scoop is the main thing. My dead string bass always gets a lot of buildup in this area. And then some harshness at 1.5. That's usually pretty cool on bass, but it was the guitar's frequency to be had on this mix. Because it does sound very cool on bass. And then a high cut to get rid of fizz. That's it. The final thing is just controlling it with a limiter so that any pick attack that is too loud doesn't cut through the center image in an annoying way. I set a threshold and nothing gets past it. Not acting too much. Let's check out this rhythm tone. Just remove 2 tuning plugins from the guitars, which I use when tracking. This is the DI. And this is the Will Putney. This plugin is amazing. This is Amp 2. Basically the preset, Amp 2. I maybe have dialed the EQ a little bit after I get the bass and drums in. Then what I wanted to do was to make it a bit more mid-rangey because it's a very scooped sound. And how did I go about doing that? It's this strong boost at 2K. Let's bypass this EQ. This gives it some more of that, bite. And the filter doesn't let the high end get out of control in the sizzy area. So that's what the EQ is doing. This is an EQ for control, low end control beneath 85 Hertz. Oh, and there was already a filter at about 100 Hertz on this EQ, but it's very soft. So I double down here. The tiniest bit of 300 removed, and then some notches at 3.8 and 4.4. Check these babies out. This is what hell sounds like, my friends. Also, the tiniest amount of 2K here, once again, to make them nice and present. Guitar compressor, we're looking to get rid of palm mutes that are too loud. They'll get compressed. And we're also looking to get everything else up so that the guitars are always their loudest volume. One of my favorite tricks, learned this from Andrew Wade. This is a transient designer on guitars. So this is to make you sound like you picked the string, like you wanted to rip it off. Whenever there's breaks in the sound like this, the transient designer will grab this beginning part of your pick attack, so the first 20 milliseconds of it, and increase it by 5 decibels. Look at it. Here again. You can hear it go ka, ka, every time the guitar does a note after the rest. This is a nice detail that with the bass and drums, it just makes the guitars rip. Check out the beginning of the breakdown. It just sounds super good. So if you have a transient designer, try putting it on guitars and watch this happen. It's pretty cool. This lo-fi thing is the same tone with this EQ. So a very harsh filter at 450 and 2500. This is what makes it sound like a radio. Also the limiter to pin down the dynamics. And then I have 4 tracks with that same tone, but they just have feedback and the chord going up. So it's that same tone, just maybe the chord one has less filters. Yeah. Actually, the chord one doesn't have filters, just a feedback one. Other than that, same cool tone. Clean tone in the break. This is split coil neck on my 7 string, so it's the sentient pickup. And this is the stock clean tone from the SS11X. It's that good. You just turn it on and it sounds like this. It has this reverb that's called Space Large, 50% mix. Incredible. Just some delay now. Very subtle delay, as you can see here, because it's low passed down to 1.5K, so there's almost no pick attack in the repeats that you hear. Very, very cool trick on these ambient parts. Let's go to our melody carrier, the wet lead. This is the AMP3 preset. I think it doesn't come with cab 1, but that's what I put on after the fact. You just need some distortion, your reverb. I usually put something like 90 to 100% mix, but here it's just 75 because I wanted some of the distorted pick attack. About 8 seconds modulation chorus, if you can get it, and getting rid of low end, which I will do even more after. This is just a little plugin to remove the very harsh 3K to 5K region dynamically, so minus 2 dB. Let's listen to what it's removing. It's just the whistles. Very cool plugin by Brainworks to make things sound smoother. And of course, removing all the wind beneath 250, mid-range at 450, and cutting the fizz above 8K. As for the tapping in the chorus, bridge pickup. This is the proper AMP3 preset, I believe, with cabinet 4. If not, it's just AMP3 and cab 4, emulating this Meze Boogie triple crown, I believe. And I turned on the reverb pedal here too, which is a cool one. Just 10% mix to make it a little bit roomier. Just like that. And a very important delay. So very, very wet at about 25%, which is a lot for a delay. And 8th notes, ping pong. Very cool. Then there's just a bass at the break. This is the Expand plugin. And this is a blend of Mother of All pads and this mellow band pass pad, which just adds an extra octave. But the Mother of All pads is literally the mother of all pads. It sounds thick as fuck. Just getting rid of anything beneath 35 to not blow up someone's car speakers, because it's a very deep bass. And that's it. Other than that, our usual explosion sample. And this song has a bunch of explosive moments, but this is my favorite. Well, thank you guys for watching this mixing tutorial. If you're watching this right now, I appreciate the fuck out of you. You make my day better with your support, and I am really thankful for you. That's all I want to say for today. Thank you, and I'll be seeing you in the next mixing tutorial. Take care.